He dropped his chopsticks and ran to the sensor room. The screen showed something big floating in the asteroid field ahead. It was a ship, a very large ship, and it was not human. "What do we have?" Captain Yoon Ha-jun asked as he walked in behind Do-hyun. "Unknown vessel, sir. No power signatures. It looks dead." Do-hyun zoomed in on the image. The ship was beautiful in a strange way. It had smooth curves and a silver surface that reflected the distant starlight. But there were holes in its side. Burn marks covered the hull. Something bad had happened to this ship. "Probably pirates got them," Ha-jun said. "Mark the location and let the authorities know. We have cargo to deliver." "Sir, I'm reading life signs." Ha-jun stopped walking. He turned around slowly. "How many?" Do-hyun checked the scanner 3 times to make sure. 47. "They're weak, but they're alive." The captain was quiet for a long moment. Their freighter, the Boundless Wake, was not a rescue ship. They carried machine parts and frozen food between colonies. They had no weapons, no medical team, and no authority to board alien vessels. But 47 beings were dying out there. "Get your tools," Ha-jun finally said. "Park Soo-jin. You're coming too. Everyone else stays on the ship." "Crime." Do-hyun grabbed his repair kit. It was a heavy bag filled with welding equipment, spare parts, and about 50 tools he had collected over his 10 years as a mechanic. He had fixed everything from toilet systems to engine cores. He had never fixed an alien ship before. The shuttle ride took 20 minutes. As they got closer, Do-hyun could see more damage. This ship had not been attacked by pirates. It had been attacked by a fleet. Hundreds of weapon impacts covered every surface. Someone had really wanted to destroy this vessel. They found an airlock that still worked. Soo-jin hacked the door controls while Do-hyun watched for danger. The door opened with a soft hiss. The air inside was thin and cold, but breathable. "Oxygen levels are dropping," Soo-jin said, checking her scanner. "Life support is failing. They have maybe 2 hours left." They moved through dark corridors. Emergency lights flickered red and blue. The walls were covered with strange writing that Do-hyun could not read. Everything looked expensive. The metal was smooth and perfect. The technology was far beyond anything humans had built. They found the survivors in a large central room. Do-hyun stopped breathing for a moment when he saw them. They were tall. Much taller than humans. Their skin was silver blue, like the ship itself. Glowing lines ran across their faces and arms. Soft patterns of light that pulsed weakly. Their eyes were closed. They lay on the floor in neat rows, as if someone had arranged them carefully before the power died. "They're beautiful," Soo-jin whispered. Do-hyun was already moving toward a control panel on the wall. "They'll be beautiful and dead if we don't fix their air system. Help me find the life support controls." For the next hour, Do-hyun worked harder than he had ever worked in his life. The alien technology was completely different from human systems. Nothing was where he expected it to be. The power cells used energy types he had never seen. The filtration system was based on principles he did not understand. But machines were machines. They all followed logic. They all had inputs and outputs. They all could be understood if you looked hard enough. He cut open panels. He traced power lines. He found the broken components and figured out what they were supposed to do. Then he started making repairs. "I need the converter from Shuttle 2, he told Soo-jin, "and all the copper wire we have. That converter powers our navigation system. These people will die without it." Soo-jin nodded and ran back to the shuttle. Do-hyun kept working. His hands were burned from touching hot circuits. His back ached from bending over alien machinery. Sweat dripped down his face even in the cold air. He thought about his mother back on Earth. She always said he was too stubborn. She said he never knew when to give up. She was right. He did not know how to give up. It was not in his nature. Soo-jin returned with the parts. Together, they built a bridge between human and alien technology. It was ugly. It was held together with tape and prayers. But when Do-hyun connected the final wire, the lights came on. Fresh air began flowing through the vents. The temperature started rising. The alien machines hummed back to life, their displays glowing with symbols Do-hyun could not read but hoped meant, "Everything is okay." The first alien opened her eyes. Do-hyun stepped back as she sat up slowly. She was female, he thought. She wore armor that looked like it was made of starlight. Her eyes were deep violet, and they fixed on him with an intensity that made him feel very small. More aliens woke up around her. They made sounds of confusion and fear. Then they saw Do-hyun and Sujin standing there in their dirty work clothes, surrounded by tools and spare parts. One of the aliens spoke. The words were like music, like wind blowing through crystals. A moment later, a device on his belt translated, "What are you? How are we alive? I'm Kang Do-hyun. I'm a mechanic. Your ship was dying, so I fixed it." The aliens looked at each other. Then, one by one, they began to bow. They pressed their hands together and lowered their heads toward Do-hyun. Even the warriors in damaged armor bowed. Even the old ones with white hair bowed. Everyone except the female with violet eyes. She stood and walked toward him. She was a full head taller than Do-hyun. Up close, he could see that her armor was damaged. A large piece was missing from the chest, and cracks ran through what remained. "I am Seora," she said, "Queen of the Valorian people. You have saved my life and the lives of my guard. This debt cannot be measured." Do-hyun did not know what to say. He had never met a queen before. He had never even met anyone important before. He was just a mechanic from Busan who happened to be good with machines. "You're welcome," he finally said. "Your Majesty." Behind him, Captain Hajun's voice came through the communicator. "Do-hyun, what's happening in there?" Do-hyun looked at the bowing aliens, at the queen standing before him, at the ship he had somehow brought back from the dead. "Captain," he said, "I think our delivery is going to be late." The Valorian ship was called the Silver Dawn. Queen Seora told Do-hyun this as they walked through its damaged corridors. She moved slowly, like someone carrying a heavy weight that nobody else could see. "We were a great people once," she said. "Our empire stretched across 3,000 star systems. We built cities that floated in the clouds of gas giants. We created art that took centuries to complete. We thought we would last forever." "What happened?" Do-hyun asked. Seora stopped walking. She looked at a window that showed only empty space and distant stars. "The Hekron Dominion happened. They came from the dark spaces between galaxies. They do not want peace. They do not want trade. They want only to destroy. They believe the universe belongs to them alone." Do-hyun had never heard of the Hekron Dominion. Humans had only been traveling between stars for about 200 years. They had met a few alien species, mostly traders and explorers. They knew the galaxy was big and full of dangers, but they had been lucky so far. "The war lasted 40 years, Seora continued. "We lost. Our homeworld is gone. Our fleets are scattered. My people are refugees now, hiding in the dark corners of the galaxy, waiting for a signal that may never come." "What signal?" Seora touched the damaged armor on her chest. "This is the crown of stars. It is not just armor. It is a symbol of my authority. It connects me to every Valorian ship through quantum links that cannot be blocked or traced. When I wear it, my people know their queen lives. They know there is still hope." She turned to face Do-hyun. In the dim light, her violet eyes looked sad and tired. "The crown was damaged in the attack. The connection is broken. My people think I am dead. Without this signal, they will lose hope. They will stop fighting. They will fade away and be forgotten." Do-hyun looked at the armor. Now that he was closer, he could see how complex it was. The metal was not just metal. It had patterns inside it, like circuits but much more advanced. Small crystals were embedded throughout, some cracked, some dark when they should have been glowing. "Can your people fix it?" he asked. "No. The Royal Forge Masters were the only ones who understood its secrets. They died with our homeworld. Their knowledge died with them." Seora's voice was flat. She had accepted this truth already. She had made peace with despair. Something inside Do-hyun refused to accept it. "May I look at it?" he asked. The Valorian guards nearby made angry sounds. One of them, a tall warrior named Taelun, stepped forward with his hand on his weapon. "You dare? The crown of stars is sacred. No outsider has ever touched it. No outsider ever will." Taelun. Siora's voice was soft but firm. "This human saved all our lives with his bare hands and strange tools. He earned the right to ask. My queen, the law. The law was written when we had a homeworld. When we had forge masters. When we had hope." Siora reached up and began removing the damaged armor. What good is law if there is no one left to follow it? The guards watched in shock as their queen handed the most sacred artifact of their civilization to a human mechanic who still had grease on his fingers. Do-hyun held the crown of stars carefully. It was lighter than he expected. The metal was warm, almost alive. He could feel a faint vibration, like a heartbeat that was trying to keep going despite terrible wounds. He turned it over in his hands. He looked at the cracks, the broken crystals, the dark circuits. He pressed his ear against it and listened to the tiny sounds inside. "This is quantum technology," he said slowly. "Way beyond anything humans have. I don't understand half of what I'm seeing. Over. But it's not. Over stings why have you stoned? Then there is no hope," Taelun said with bitter satisfaction. "I didn't say that." Do-hyun looked up at Siora. "I understand maybe 40% of this. But machines are machines. They follow rules. They have logic. If I study it long enough, I might figure out the rest." "Might?" Taelun stepped closer. "You would gamble our queen's sacred armor on might?" "I would gamble on trying instead of giving up." Do-hyun met the warrior's eyes without flinching. "Where I come from, we have a saying. If something is broken, you fix it. You don't sit around crying about how impossible it is." The room was very quiet. Sujin, standing in the corner, looked like she wanted to disappear. Captain Hajun, watching through a video link from the Boundless Wake, rubbed his forehead like he was getting a headache. Siora studied Do-hyun for a long moment. Then she did something that surprised everyone. She smiled. It was a small smile, barely visible. But it was real. "You are very strange, Kang Do-hyun of Earth. Your people have been in space for such a short time. You know so little about the galaxy, and yet you look at a problem that defeated my greatest engineers and say you will try. Is that bad? No. It is. Refreshing." She nodded slowly. "Very well. You may attempt to repair the crown of stars. I will tell my people to give you whatever help you need." Taelun looked like he had swallowed something sour. "My queen, I must protest." Protest noted and ignored. Siora turned back to Do-hyun. "How long will you need?" Do-hyun looked at the armor again. He thought about all the things he did not know. All the technology he did not understand. All the ways this could go wrong. "I don't know," he admitted. "Days. Weeks. Maybe it's truly impossible, and I'll fail completely. But I promise you this. I will give it everything I have." Siora nodded. "Then we will wait. And we will hope." She paused, then added quietly, "It has been a long time since I allowed myself to hope. Please do not make me regret it." She walked away, her guards following reluctantly. Do-hyun stood alone in the corridor, holding the broken armor of an alien queen, wondering what he had gotten himself into. Sujin came up beside him. "You're crazy," she said. "You know that, right?" "Probably." Do-hyun was already examining the armor again, his mind racing with ideas. "But I've fixed a lot of crazy things before. Toilets and engine filters. Do-hyun. Not ancient alien artifacts. Everything is just parts and connections, Sujin. Parts and connections." He started walking toward the shuttle. "Come on. We have a lot of work to do." Behind them, unseen, Queen Siora watched from a doorway. The strange human walked with purpose, already focused on his task. He did not move like a hero from legend. He moved like a worker who had a job to do. For reasons she could not explain, that gave her more hope than any grand speech ever had. He set up a workspace in the cargo bay of the boundless wake. He placed the crown of stars on a clean table and walked around it for hours. He took photographs from every angle. He made drawings of every crack and broken piece. He recorded videos of himself talking through what he saw. "The outer shell is some kind of living metal," he said into his recorder. "It responds to touch. Gets warmer when I hold it. The internal circuits are quantum-based, way beyond human technology. There are 47 crystal nodes, and 23 of them are damaged." Captain Hajun came by in the evening. "Making progress?" "Making observations. Progress comes later." Do-hyun did not look up from his drawings. "Can you contact Earth? I need access to our quantum physics databases. Everything we have. You think human science can help with this? I think knowledge is knowledge. Maybe our scientists saw something the Valorians missed. Different eyes see different things." Hajun nodded and left. Do-hyun kept working. On the third day, he started taking the armor apart. The Valorian guards watched through a window. They looked horrified. One of them actually cried. To them, this was like watching someone tear apart a holy statue. Taelun had to physically hold back a young guard who wanted to stop Do-hyun by force, but Seora had given permission. Her word was law. They could only watch and pray. Do-hyun was careful. He documented every piece he removed. He labeled everything. He created maps showing exactly where each component belonged. The work was slow and delicate. "This is incredible," he muttered as he examined an inner circuit board. "It's like the technology is grown, not built. Like they planted seeds and the machine grew from them." Sujin handed him a cup of coffee. She had been helping him every day, fabricating small parts and running calculations. "Maybe that's why they can't fix it. They don't know how to grow replacement parts. Or maybe nobody tried hard enough." Do-hyun sipped the coffee and made a face. It was cold. He had forgotten about it for 2 hours. "Humans learned to make artificial hearts before we understood how real hearts worked. Sometimes, you don't need to know why something works, you just need to make it work." By the end of the first week, Do-hyun had identified the main problems. 12 of the crystal nodes were completely destroyed. The quantum links were disrupted because key relay points were damaged. The power distribution system had overloaded and burned out several pathways. "I can fix the power system," he told Seora during their daily meeting. "Human technology is actually pretty good at power management. We've been solving energy problems for centuries." "And the crystals?" Do-hyun hesitated. "I'm still working on that." The second week was harder. Do-hyun slept only 4 hours a night. He ate when Sujin forced him to. His hands were covered in small burns from touching hot components. His eyes were red from staring at screens. He tried to create synthetic crystals using the ship's manufacturing equipment. They shattered. He tried to repair the broken crystals with bonding agents. They rejected every material he used. He tried to bypass the crystals entirely. The system refused to work without them. "Impossible," he muttered on day 15, sitting alone in the cargo bay at 3 in the morning. "They're right. It's impossible." He put his head in his hands. He had promised Seora hope. He had looked Taelun in the eye and said he would try. Now he was failing. The crown of stars sat on the table, half assembled, mocking him with its broken beauty. His tablet beeped. A message from Earth had finally arrived, the quantum physics databases he had requested. Millions of files about human research into quantum mechanics. Do-hyun almost ignored it. What could human science possibly offer? The Valorians had been studying quantum technology for thousands of years. Humans were babies compared to them, but he opened the files anyway. Because that was what he did. He tried. 3 hours later, he sat up straight. "Sujin." He ran through the ship. "Sujin." Banging on her door. "Sujin, wake up." She opened the door, looking exhausted and annoyed. "It's 4 in the morning. I found something. The crystals, they're not just crystals. They're quantum resonance chambers. They vibrate at specific frequencies to maintain the quantum links. So we can't replace them with synthetic copies because the frequency needs to be perfect. But look at this. He showed her his tablet. Human researchers discovered the same principle in 2089. They found a way to tune imperfect crystals using magnetic fields. The Valorians never developed this technique because their crystals were always perfect. They never needed it. Sujin's eyes widened. You think we can use human technology to fix alien crystals? I think we can try. They worked through the night. By morning, Do-hyun had built a small device using parts from the ship's medical scanner. It generated precise magnetic fields that could adjust the vibration frequency of damaged crystals. He tested it on the least damaged crystal first. His hands were shaking. If this didn't work, he was out of ideas. The crystal flickered, dimmed, then slowly, steadily, began to glow. Do-hyun laughed. It was a tired, half-crazy laugh, but it was real. It works. It actually works. Over the next 5 days, he repaired every crystal he could save. Some were too damaged. For those, he created hybrid replacements. Valorian crystal fragments, held in human-designed housings, tuned by magnetic fields. They were ugly. They looked like patches on a beautiful painting. But they worked. On day 22, Do-hyun reassembled the crown of stars. His hands moved slowly, placing each piece with extreme care. Sujin watched in nervous silence. Outside the window, Valorian guards had gathered, their faces pressed against the glass. The last component clicked into place. Do-hyun connected the power supply. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then the crown of stars began to glow. Light spread through its circuits like blood through veins. The crystals blazed with inner fire. The quantum links hummed to life. Reaching out across the galaxy, the glow became blinding. Do-hyun had to shield his eyes. Through his fingers, he saw the armor rise from the table, floating in the air, surrounded by light that seemed to come from another dimension. The cargo bay door opened. Siora stood there, tears running down her silver-blue face. Behind her, every Valorian on the ship had fallen to their knees. The signal, she whispered. I can feel them. All of them. My people, they're answering. She walked toward the floating armor, like someone walking toward a miracle. When she touched it, the light wrapped around her, and suddenly, she was wearing it. The crown of stars had accepted her again. Siora turned to Do-hyun. In that moment, she did not look like a defeated refugee. She looked like a queen. You did it, she said. The impossible thing. You did it. Do-hyun was too tired to feel proud. I just fixed what was broken. All around them, the Valorians began to chant. The same word, over and over. Their voices filled the cargo bay. The ship, the space around them. Do-hyun did not understand the word yet. He did not know that his life was about to change forever. He just smiled wearily and said, You're welcome. Part 4. The Ancient Law. The chanting would not stop. Do-hyun stood in the middle of the cargo bay, surrounded by kneeling Valorians, completely confused. They kept repeating the same word. Their voices rose and fell like waves on a beach. Some of them were crying, some of them were laughing. All of them were looking at him like he had just performed a miracle. What are they saying? He asked Sujin. She checked her translator device. Her face went through several expressions: confusion, disbelief, and something that looked like she was trying very hard not to laugh. I think it's translating wrong, she said. What does it say? Sujin bit her lip. Groom. Groom? Like, taking care of horses? No, like, wedding groom. Before Do-hyun could respond, Taelun pushed through the crowd. The stern warrior's face was twisted with emotion. He looked at Do-hyun with something between deep respect and absolute horror. You have done it, Taelun said. His voice was strange, like he could not believe his own words. You have invoked the right of the forge-bound. I have no idea what that means. It means you have proven yourself worthy. Taelun's hands were shaking. The ancient law is clear. He who repairs the crown of stars becomes the queen's eternal consort, her husband, her partner for life. The cargo bay became very quiet. Even the chanting stopped. Everyone was watching Do-hyun. He laughed. It was a nervous laugh. That's a joke, right? You're joking. Taelun did not laugh. The Valorian do not joke about sacred law. But I just fixed some broken equipment. I'm a mechanic. I didn't know anything about any ancient rite. The law does not require knowledge, only action. Taelun stepped back and bowed deeply. By the oldest traditions of our people, you are now betrothed to Queen Seora. The wedding preparations will begin immediately. From across the bay, Captain Hajun's voice came through the communicator. He was laughing so hard he could barely speak. Do-hyun, you absolute fool. You fixed yourself into a royal marriage. Do-hyun, this isn't funny. It's the funniest thing I've ever heard. Sujin had given up trying to hide her amusement. She was leaning against a wall, shoulders shaking with silent laughter. The Valorian guards around her looked confused by her reaction. To them, this was a sacred moment. To the humans, it was comedy. Queen Seora approached. The crown of stars glowed softly around her, making her look like she was wrapped in starlight. Her face was carefully neutral, but Do-hyun thought he could see something complicated in her violet eyes. Kang Do-hyun, she said formally. The law is clear. By your actions, you have earned the right to stand beside me as consort. This is the highest honor our civilization can offer. Your Majesty, I never meant to. Do-hyun took a breath. I just wanted to help. I didn't know about any of this. Do-hyun, I know. Seora's voice softened slightly. The law was created thousands of years ago. When our people were young, the crown of stars was forged by the first forge masters, and they wrote the rite into its very design. Anyone who could repair it was deemed worthy of the queen's hand, because such a person would have proven themselves the greatest engineer of their age. But I'm not a great engineer. I'm just stubborn. Perhaps that is enough. A tiny smile appeared on Seora's lips. Perhaps stubbornness is what our people need. Do-hyun's mind was racing. He thought about his life back on Earth, his small apartment in Busan, his mother who called every week to ask when he was getting married, his plan to save enough money to open his own repair shop someday. None of those plans included becoming an alien king. What if I refuse? He asked quietly. What happens then? The Valorians around him gasped. Taelun's hand moved toward his weapon, but Seora raised her hand, and everyone went still. If you refuse, you are free to go, she said. The law binds me, not you. You are human. Our traditions have no hold over you. And what happens to you? Seora's expression flickered. For a moment, Do-hyun saw the exhausted, grieving woman beneath the royal mask. I will honor the law by remaining unmarried forever. My people will understand that the sacred rite was invoked but rejected. They will see it as another loss, another sign that the old ways are dying. But you would survive. Your people would survive. Survive, yes, but survival is not the same as living. Seora looked at the Valorians around them, the warriors, the elders, the young ones who had grown up as refugees. My people have lost everything. Their home, their history, their hope. The crown of stars returning was supposed to be a sign that the darkness was ending. If the sacred rite is rejected on the same day, I fear what it will do to their spirits. Do-hyun understood. This was not about him. It was not about Seora. It was about millions of refugees scattered across the galaxy, waiting for good news that never came. I need time to think, he said. Seora nodded. You have until tomorrow. The law allows one day for consideration. She turned and walked away, her guards following. The crowd slowly dispersed. Soon, only Do-hyun and Sujin remained in the cargo bay. Well, Sujin said, that was unexpected. Is that all you have to say? What do you want me to say? My coworker accidentally proposed to an alien queen by fixing her armor. There's no manual for this situation. Do-hyun sat down heavily on a cargo container. His body ached. His mind was tired. And now he had to make a decision that would affect millions of lives. What would you do? He asked. Sujin thought about it seriously. I don't know. It's not a small thing. You'd be leaving behind everything. Earth. Your family. Your whole species. You'd be living among aliens for the rest of your life. But they need help. They really need help. That doesn't mean you have to be the one to help them. Sujin sat down beside him. You already did an amazing thing. You saved 47 lives. You repaired something that couldn't be repaired. Nobody would blame you for going home. I would blame me. They sat in silence for a long time. Outside the window, stars drifted past. Somewhere out there, Valorian ships were receiving the signal from the crown of stars. Refugees were crying with relief, knowing their queen was alive. They did not know that a human mechanic from Busan was sitting in a cargo bay, trying to decide their future. Do-hyun thought about his mother. She would be confused at first, then proud, then confused again. She would probably ask if this meant she was getting grandchildren. He laughed softly at the thought. What's funny? Sujin asked. Nothing. Everything. He stood up and stretched. I'm going to go talk to Seora. Privately. You've made a decision? Not yet. But I think I need to know who she really is. Not who the law says she should be. He walked toward the door, then paused. Sujin? Thanks for helping. With everything, she smiled. Just promise me you'll invite me to the wedding, if there is one. Do-hyun didn't answer. He walked out into the corridor, toward the silver ship and the alien queen, who was waiting for his answer. He had no idea what he was going to say, but he knew he had to say something. Part 5. Collision of Worlds. Do-hyun found Seora alone in an observation room on the Silver Dawn. She was standing at the window, still wearing the crown of stars, looking out at the endless darkness between stars. Without her guards and advisors around her, she looked smaller somehow, more human. May I come in? He asked. She did not turn around. It is your right. I'm not asking because of rights. I'm asking because it's polite. Seora turned then. She studied him with those violet eyes. Yes, you may come in. Do-hyun walked to the window and stood beside her. For a while, neither of them spoke. They just watched the stars. Tell me about yourself, Do-hyun finally said. Not the queen. Not the symbol. You. I do not understand. What do you like? What do you hate? What makes you laugh? What did you dream about when you were young? He looked at her. I'm not going to marry a title. If I do this, I need to know who you actually are. Seora was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was different. Softer. Less formal. I like the smell of rain on metal. My homeworld had storms that lasted for weeks. I used to stand on the balcony of the palace and breathe in that smell. She paused. I will never smell it again. I'm sorry. I hate meetings. As queen, I must attend hundreds of them. People talking in circles, never saying what they mean. It makes me want to scream. A small smile appeared. I have never told anyone that. What makes you laugh? My younger sister. She used to imitate our mother's voice perfectly. She would give fake royal commands and make the servants very confused. The smile faded. She died in the first attack. Do-hyun did not know what to say. He reached out and touched her arm gently. She did not pull away. What did you dream about when you were young? Seora looked at the stars. I wanted to be an explorer. I wanted to travel to unknown places and discover new things. Instead, I became queen. My duty was to stay, not to go. And now? Now I dream about peace. About a place where my people can live without fear. About waking up one morning and not carrying the weight of a dying civilization on my shoulders. She turned to face him fully. What about you, Kang Do-hyun? What do you dream about? I dreamed about fixing things, about being so good at my job that people would come from everywhere to find me. He laughed softly. I guess that dream came true in the strangest way possible. Do you regret finding my ship? No. I regret not bringing better coffee, but not finding you. Ciora made a sound that might have been a laugh. It was quiet and rusty, like she had forgotten how to do it. They talked for hours. Ciora told him about her childhood in the Crystal Palace. Do-hyun told her about growing up in Busan, about the sea air, and the fish markets, and his mother's cooking. She asked about human customs. He asked about Valorian history. Slowly, carefully, they began to understand each other. The law does not require love, Ciora said eventually. It only requires partnership. Many royal marriages in our history were political arrangements. Is that what you want? An arrangement? I have not allowed myself to want anything for a very long time. She looked at him directly. What do you want? Do-hyun thought about it. He thought about his simple life and how it had been turned upside down in just a few weeks. He thought about the refugee children he had seen on the ship, their eyes filled with fear and uncertainty. He thought about Ciora, the queen who wanted to be an explorer, trapped by duty. I want to help, he said. Not because of some ancient law, not because I feel obligated, because I can see that you need someone, and I'm here. And I know how to fix things. I am not a machine. No. You're much more complicated. But the principle is the same. You find what's broken, you figure out how it works, and you make it better. He took a breath. I can't promise love. I barely know you. But I can promise that I'll try. Every day, I'll try to be a good partner, to be useful, to help carry some of that weight. Ciora's eyes were wet. That is more than anyone has offered me since I became queen. Then maybe it's time for something new. He held out his hand. It was a simple human gesture, but it felt right. Ciora looked at his hand for a long moment. Then she took it. Her fingers were cool and smooth, and they fit against his palm in a surprisingly comfortable way. Okay, Do-hyun said. Let's do this. Let's get married. The next few weeks were chaos. News of the engagement spread through both fleets like fire. The Valorians celebrated openly. Ceremonies were held on every ship. Ancient songs were sung. Prayers were offered to ancestors who had been dead for millennia. The humans had a different reaction. You're what? Do-hyun's mother screamed through the communication link. Her face filled the screen, shocked and confused. Married to a who? An alien queen, Mom. Her name is Ciora. She's very nice. I wanted grandchildren, not alien grandchildren. We haven't actually discussed children yet. Captain Hajun had to file reports with Earth's government, then file more reports when they didn't believe the first ones. Then participate in several emergency meetings with very serious people who wanted to know if humanity was now in an alliance with the Valorian people. The paperwork, Hajun kept muttering. The endless paperwork. Sujin became Do-hyun's official advisor, mostly because she was the only human who thought the situation was more funny than terrifying. She helped him navigate Valorian customs and translate confusing traditions. Apparently you have to memorize a 7-hour poem before the wedding, she told him one morning. 7 hours? It tells the complete history of the Valorian people. You recite it as proof that you understand who you're marrying. They hold berding with house really badak today I are created gaming who you're marrying. I can barely remember song lyrics. Better start practicing. The Valorians assigned him teachers. They dressed him in ceremonial robes. They taught him how to walk, how to bow, how to address different ranks of nobility. Do-hyun felt like he was back in school, except the tests would be witnessed by an entire civilization. Tae-loon remained his biggest critic. The warrior watched everything Do-hyun did with suspicious eyes. But slowly, grudgingly, his attitude began to change. You are stubborn, Tae-loon said one day, after watching Do-hyun practice sword forms for the 10th straight hour. I've been told that. It is not entirely a bad quality. Coming from Tae-loon, this was almost a compliment. Through all of it, Do-hyun and Seora kept talking. Every evening, they met in the observation room and shared stories. He learned about her fears and hopes. She learned about his strange human habits. Sometimes they disagreed. Sometimes they argued. But they always came back to the same conclusion. They were partners now. That meant working through problems together. One night, 3 days before the wedding, Seora gave him something wrapped in silver cloth. "What is this?" "Open it." Inside was a small crystal, glowing with soft light. Do-hyun recognized the design. It was the same type of crystal used in the Crown of Stars. "It is a communication crystal," Seora explained. "Bonded to me. If you carry it, you will always be able to reach me, no matter how far apart we are." Do-hyun looked at the crystal, then at her. "Is this a Valorian tradition?" "No. It is a gift from me to you. Because you gave me something precious, Hope. I wanted to give you something in return." He smiled and put the crystal in his pocket, close to his heart. Thank you, she replied, for being stubborn enough to stay." Outside the window, the stars continued their endless journey. Somewhere among them, millions of Valorians were waiting for their queen's wedding, and a simple mechanic from Busan was about to become part of something much bigger than himself. He was terrified. But he was also ready. Part 6. Fire in the Dark. The attack came without warning. Do-hyun was practicing his wedding poem when the alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed through every corridor. Voices shouted commands in Valorian, and human languages mixed together. He ran to the bridge of the Boundless Wake. Captain Hajun was already there, staring at the tactical display with a pale face. "What's happening?" Do-hyun demanded. "Hekron Dominion, 15 warships. They dropped out of hyperspace 2 minutes ago." Hajun's voice was steady, but his hands were shaking. "They found us." On the display, Do-hyun could see the enemy fleet. The ships were ugly, all sharp angles and dark metal, built only for destruction. They were spreading out, surrounding the small Valorian fleet like predators circling wounded prey. The Silver Dawn shook as the first shots hit its shields. Alarms screamed louder. Smoke began filling distant corridors. "We have to run," Hajun said. "The Boundless Wake isn't a combat ship. We have no weapons. If we run, they die. All of them. And if we stay, we die too." A communication screen flickered to life. Seora appeared, wearing the Crown of Stars, commanding her people from the bridge of the Silver Dawn. She looked calm despite the explosions happening around her. "Kang Do-hyun," she said, "you must leave. Take your ship and go. The Hekron do not care about humans. They will let you pass." "No. This is not a request. I am ordering you. You're not my queen yet. The wedding hasn't happened." Do-hyun turned to Hajun. "Captain, I need access to our cargo." "Our cargo?" "We're carrying machine parts and emergency supplies." "Exactly." Do-hyun's mind was racing. He was seeing connections, possibilities, solutions. It was the same feeling he got when he was deep into a repair job, that moment when all the pieces started making sense. "I have an idea. It's crazy and might not work. But it's better than running." Hajun looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "What do you need?" For the next 30 minutes, Do-hyun worked like a man possessed. Sujin helped him, following his rapid instructions without question. They pulled apart cargo containers. They rewired systems. They turned the Boundless Wake into something it was never designed to be. "This is insane," Sujin said as she connected the last power cable. "We've basically turned our entire cargo into one giant bomb." "Oh, not a bomb. A weapon." Do-hyun wiped sweat from his forehead. "The machine parts we're carrying include quantum field generators. By themselves, they're harmless. They're meant for construction projects. But if we overload them and launch them at precise coordinates, they'll create localized quantum disruptions, like tiny black holes. Tiny, temporary black holes. They'll tear apart anything nearby, including us if we're not careful. So we'll be careful." Do-hyun opened a channel to the Valorian fleet. "Queen Seora, I need your ships to create an opening. Push the enemy into a tighter formation. Get them clustered together." "Why?" Because I'm about to give them a very bad day. There was a pause. Then Siora's voice came back, and Do-hyun could hear the smile in it. All ships. Execute. Maneuver Pattern 7. Drive the enemy together. Our human has a plan. The Valorian ships moved. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they fought with desperate courage. Warriors who had lost everything threw themselves against the enemy, pushing, herding, forcing the Hekron fleet into a tighter cluster. The boundless wake flew straight toward the center of the enemy formation. They're targeting us, Hajun reported. Multiple missile locks. Hold course. We're going to get hit. Not yet. Trust me. Do-hyun watched the display. The Hekron ships were grouped now. Their weapons all pointed at the small human freighter flying stupidly into the middle of them. They probably thought it was a desperate suicide run. In a way, they were right. Now, Do-hyun said, the boundless wake opened its cargo bays and released everything. Hundreds of quantum field generators tumbled into space, each one overloaded and ready to burst. The Hekron ships tried to destroy them, but there were too many. The generators spread out like seeds thrown by a giant hand. Do-hyun pressed the activation button. Space itself screamed. The quantum disruptions tore through the Hekron fleet like tiny storms of gravity and light. Ships were pulled apart. Missiles exploded before they could launch. 3 Hekron warships collided with each other as their navigation systems failed. In seconds, the enemy fleet was in chaos. Do-hyun grabbed the communication controls and broadcast on all frequencies. He spoke in Korean first, then Galactic Common, then the Valorian sacred tongue he had been learning for the wedding. This is Kang Do-hyun of Earth, consort to the Valorian throne. You came here to destroy. You came here to take. But you made a mistake. You attacked humans. And humans don't know how to quit. We don't give up. We don't surrender. We fight with everything we have, even if everything is just spare parts and crazy ideas. So here's your choice. Run away now, or find out what else we can do. The Hekron fleet hesitated. They had expected easy prey, a few refugee ships, a small human freighter. Instead, they had lost half their force to weapons that shouldn't exist. Then, from the far side of the system, new signals appeared. Valorian reinforcements. Hundreds of ships dropping out of hyperspace, drawn by the Crown of Stars' signal. Battle cruisers, carrier ships, the scattered fleet had finally gathered, and they arrived at exactly the right moment. The Hekron commander made the smart choice. The surviving enemy ships turned and fled, jumping to hyperspace before the reinforcements could cut them off. The battle was over. Do-hyun sat back in his chair. His hands were shaking. His heart was pounding. He had just fought a space battle using cargo containers and creativity. And somehow, they had won. Siora's voice came through the speakers. Kang Do-hyun. Yes, that was either the most brilliant or the most stupid thing I have ever witnessed. Can it be both? Can it be both? She laughed. It was a real laugh, full and warm, the kind of laugh he had never heard from her before. Yes, it can be both. Captain Hajun slumped in his chair. I'm going to need a lot of alcohol after this. Sujin was grinning like crazy. That was amazing. We just beat an alien invasion with construction equipment. Messages started flooding in from the Valorian fleet. Captains who had witnessed the battle. Warriors who had seen the impossible. All of them saying variations of the same thing. The human had saved them. The strange, soft creature who fixed their queen's armor had now destroyed their enemies with nothing but cleverness and courage. Do-hyun looked out the window at the gathered fleet. Thousands of ships, carrying millions of refugees, all waiting for what came next. So, he said quietly, I guess the wedding is back on? Siora's face appeared on the screen. She was crying, but she was also smiling. Yes, Kang Do-hyun. The wedding is very much back on. And I have something to ask you. What? After today, after everything you have done, do you still want to marry me? Knowing that this life will never be simple? Knowing that there will always be enemies, always be dangers? Do-hyun thought about it. He thought about his quiet apartment and his simple dreams. He thought about instant noodles and repair shops and peaceful boredom. Then he thought about Siora. About the Valorian children who would grow up with hope instead of fear. About the galaxy that was bigger and stranger than he had ever imagined. Yes, he said, more than ever. Then come to me. We have a wedding to finish. Do-hyun stood up and walked toward the shuttle bay. Behind him, he could hear Captain Hajin already complaining about the paperwork. But ahead of him was something new. Something worth fighting for. He was ready. Part 7. A New Dawn. The sanctuary moon of Aethon Prime was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Silver mountains rose from purple plains. Forests of crystal trees caught the light of 3 suns and scattered it into rainbows. Rivers flowed with water so clear you could see the colorful stones at the bottom from orbit. This was where the remaining Valorians had gathered. Their ships filled the sky, 10,000 vessels carrying the survivors of a civilization that refused to die. They had come from every corner of the galaxy, drawn by the Crown of Stars' signal and the impossible news that followed. Their queen was alive, and she was marrying a human. Do-hyun stood in a preparation chamber, looking at himself in a mirror. He barely recognized the man looking back. The Valorian ceremonial robes were silver and black, threaded with actual starlight captured in thin fibers. His hair had been styled in the traditional way, pulled back and decorated with small crystals that glowed softly. They had even given him special contact lenses that made his ordinary brown eyes look like they contained galaxies. "You look ridiculous," Sujin said from behind him. "Thanks. Very helpful. I mean it as a compliment. You look like a fairy tale prince. The kids back on Earth are going to freak out." Do-hyun smiled weakly. His stomach was doing flips. He had faced alien technology, survived space battles, and learned a 7-hour poem. But nothing had prepared him for actually walking out there and getting married in front of millions of people. A knock on the door. Taelun entered, wearing his full ceremonial armor. The warrior had changed over the past weeks. The suspicion in his eyes had been replaced by something like respect. "It is time," Taelun said. "Are you ready?" "No, not even close." "Good. If you felt ready, I would worry." Taelun almost smiled. Queen Siora was not ready either. "When I spoke with her. But she is going through with it. Because it matters. What if I mess up the ceremony?" "You will definitely mess up the ceremony. You are human. Our ways are not natural to you." Taelun put a hand on Do-hyun's shoulder. "But that is not what matters. What matters is that you try. What matters is that you are here, despite everything. That is what our people will remember." Do-hyun took a deep breath. "Okay, let's do this." The ceremony was held in the Grand Temple of Aethon, an ancient building that had survived the fall of the homeworld because it existed on sacred ground. Its walls were covered with the history of the Valorian people carvings that told stories of triumph and tragedy going back thousands of years. Today, a new story would be added. Do-hyun walked down the long aisle. On either side, Valorians stood in perfect silence. Warriors, elders, children, refugees, all of them watching the strange human who had changed everything. Behind them, screens broadcast the ceremony to every ship in the fleet. At the end of the aisle, Siora waited. She was wearing the crown of stars in its full glory. The armor had been polished until it shone like a small sun. Around it, she wore robes of deep purple that flowed like water when she moved. Her silver-blue skin glowed with inner light, and her violet eyes were fixed on Do-hyun as he approached. She was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. He reached the altar and took his place beside her. The high priestess, an ancient Valorian with white hair and kind eyes, began speaking the sacred words. The ceremony was long and complicated. There were blessings and prayers. There were exchanges of symbolic objects. There was the moment when Do-hyun had to recite the 7-hour poem. He made it about 3 hours before he started making mistakes. Words came out wrong. He forgot entire sections. At one point, he accidentally described a great historical battle as the day everyone was very upset. The crowd shifted uncomfortably. Some of the elders frowned. This was a sacred tradition being stumbled through by an outsider. Then Siora did something unexpected. She started helping him. Whenever he forgot a line, she would whisper the first word. When he mispronounced something important, she would gently correct him. They began reciting together, her steady voice guiding his uncertain one. By the end of the poem, they were speaking as one voice. The crowd's discomfort had changed to something else. They were witnessing something new. A queen who supported her consort instead of judging him, a partnership instead of a performance. When the poem finally ended, there was silence. Then, slowly, applause began. It grew and grew until it filled the entire temple. The high priestess smiled. "It is time for the vows." Siora spoke first. Her words were ancient and formal, promises that had been made by queens for millennia. She pledged to honor him as her equal, to seek his counsel in times of doubt, to stand beside him in darkness and light. Then, it was Do-hyun's turn. He was supposed to recite the traditional consort's vows. He had memorized them perfectly. But standing there, looking at Siora, the rehearsed words felt wrong. He spoke from his heart instead. "I'm just a mechanic," he said. His voice was rough with emotion. "I fix things that are broken. That's all I've ever done. That's all I know how to do." The crowd was completely silent. "When I found your ship, it was broken. When I met your people, they were broken. When I met you..." He paused, searching for words. "You were the most broken of all, not on the outside, on the inside, where nobody could see." Siora's eyes were wet. She did not look away. "I don't know if I can fix everything. I don't know if I can be a good king or consort or whatever I'm supposed to be. I'll probably make a lot of mistakes. I'll probably embarrass you at least once a week." A small laugh rippled through the crowd. "But I promise you this. I will try. Every single day, I will try. I will wake up and ask myself how I can make things better. How I can help carry the weight. How I can repair the damage." He reached out and took her hands in his. "Because that's what love is, isn't it? It's not just a feeling. It's a choice. It's choosing to stay, even when things are hard. Choosing to fix what's broken instead of walking away. Choosing to try, even when trying feels impossible." He squeezed her hands gently. "I choose you, Siora. Today and every day after. Not because of some ancient law. Not because the galaxy is watching. Because you showed me something worth fighting for. Worth building. Worth repairing." The tears were falling freely down Siora's face now. She did not bother to wipe them away. "I choose you too," she whispered. The high priestess raised her hands. "Then by the authority of our ancestors and the witness of our people, I declare you bonded. Partners in light and shadow. Husband and wife. King and queen." She turned to the crowd. "People of Valoria, your queen has found her consort. Today we celebrate not just a marriage, but a new beginning. A human has joined our family. A bridge has been built between stars." She looked at Do-hyun with ancient, knowing eyes. "May the galaxy remember this day. May it remember what humans taught us. They do not conquer. They do not despair. They repair." Siora lifted Do-hyun's hand high for everyone to see. The crowd erupted in cheers. The chant began again, the same word that had started everything. But it sounded different now. Not confused or fearful. Triumphant. "Groom! Groom! Groom!" From somewhere in the crowd, Captain Hajun shook his head and muttered to Sujin. "I'm going to need so much paperwork for this. So much paperwork." Sujin laughed and elbowed him. "Shut up and enjoy the moment. I am enjoying it. I can enjoy it and complain about paperwork at the same time." On the altar, Do-hyun and Siora looked at each other. The noise of the crowd faded into background music. For one perfect moment, it was just the two of them. "So," Do-hyun said, "what happens now?" Siora smiled a real smile, full of warmth and hope, and something that might have been love. "Now we rebuild. Now we find a home for our people. Now we show the galaxy that broken things can be made whole again." She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against his, a Valorian gesture of deep affection. Now, we begin. Outside the temple, the three suns of Aethon Prime were setting. The sky filled with colors that had no names in any human language. Ships rose and fell, carrying people who finally had something to celebrate. And in the heart of it all, a mechanic from Busan stood beside an alien queen, ready to face whatever came next. Together, the end.